This could be a scene from King's Landing in Game of Thrones or Hogwarts School of Wizardry in Harry Potter, which has much to do with its owners being in the film industry. Most details are handmade, with a sense of having been grown rather than built, and Luke Atkinson has been central to achieving that.
So you're the master craftsman responsible for realizing this beautiful dream.
Yes, it was something that I started off with the owner many years ago, 22 years ago, and met him in the film industry, and it was just fulfilling something that he wanted to achieve, and it's taken many, many years to do that.
I really love these arches. They remind me of the Zimbabwe ruins.
Well, we wanted to build a house that grew out of the ground, so we started off with forms and then placed in the rocks and then put in reinforced concrete over the top so they would stay in. So it's not your traditional stone fitting with a keystone, but just forms and then reinforced concrete over the top.
This whole entrance is so dramatic, and you've got a seat right outside the entrance door, which is quite unusual.
Well, one of the things that we wanted to achieve is a closeness to nature and to the fish, the koi that are here. So the bridges, we got them really, really low, so you feel like you're almost walking on the water. Then in the entrance, we created this little sit place where you can actually sit, look at the koi, reflect, that it's not just a rush go into the house. So you can actually sit here, almost meditate, look at the walls, the moss growing on the walls, because that doesn't happen naturally. It has now over the years, but there was a lot of times putting plants into these walls, irrigating them to get it to look like this.
From the rainforest of an entrance, the interiors continue with white sandstone walls and great tree trunks worked into the architecture. It's another filmic setting.
Luke, everything seems to be oversized in this house. The scale and volume, it really blows me away. And it all starts with this big, beautiful fireplace.
Yeah, this is a massive Oregon beam that we've got here, and then that was from the old harbor, and it was actually burnt black, and then we sandblasted it to get the texture back in of the wood. Everything in this house had to be overscaled because of the sheer volume of the room that we're trying to heat up. So we had to put in stainless steel reflectors to try and reflect out more of the heat. But then as well, all the logs and things around inside this room, that has all been sandblasted, looking natural to try and bring the outside in.
What really amazes me is that you managed to integrate the trees into the house.
Well, all these woods have been actually selected by hand, and there was cranes put out in the road and lifted over everything just to get these size beams into the house, because a lot of them weigh many tons.
Every piece of wood comes with its own story of where and how it was discovered, reclaimed, and luxuriously repurposed.
In this dining room, we used a lot of reclaimed wood from all these beams up here that were from the harbor, trees that were from up country, then all the shelving on that side, that's all Brazilian rosewood, Malawian cedar floors, French oak, all the way through on those shelving there.
Much of the timber was reclaimed from the V&A waterfront, while alien blue gum trees have been useful.
Everything in this house intrigues me, but this beam in particular is really interesting. Does it form part of the structure of the house?
Yes, this is a massive gum tree which was reclaimed from up country, and it does hold up this whole roof.
From someone who's so close to the project, what would you say the theme is of this house?
The overall theme, natural. Everywhere you look, there's nothing that seems out of place because everything is natural. And when you do a collaboration of just all these natural elements, you can't go far wrong.
Unlike more formula-based architecture, this design manages to fit many rooms into one house without ever being predictable. It's more of a fantasy novel of a home, where each space unfolds like a twist in the plot. Richard Hardy has worked with one-of-a-kind South African homes and is yet to find one as original.
Isn't this room lovely? It's got a distinct African feel to it.
Yeah, so you've got the cowshed doors, and you've also got the Dogon doors, which are from Mali. And I think the feeling of height in this room gives that sort of game lodge feel.
This room makes me feel like I'm really on holiday.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's an amazing experience, and especially when you're lying in this bed and you've got this incredible view outside of the doors, and you've got the trees, and I mean, with the windows open, you can hear the trees rustling, so it's an amazing feel.
One thing that really catches my eye is this distinct bath.
Yeah, so the bath is interesting. It comes from Portugal. It's a vintage piece. They found it whilst they were traveling. So you've got wood on the top, plus the majority of it's made of copper. And then you'll see that the feet are like the koi that are around the house.
The sandstone finishes ensure that even the straight lines you do find in this house manage to feel natural. This extends to bathrooms where the basins are giant ocean clamshells. With the indigenous garden practically part of the house, there's only one room which bucks the organic trend.
Richard, this room is really a juxtaposition from the rest of the house. Why do you think they've gone with the modern decor?
Yeah, they just wanted something different, and it was especially for the kids. The kids wanted a space to come into which was really modern compared to the family room on the ground floor of the house.
There's an interesting mix of furniture. They really have quite an eclectic taste.
Yeah, so this furniture actually comes from Italy, and they wanted it to fit in more with the sort of industrial, concrete look that you've got. You've got different colors, you've got black, which is in contrast to the rest of the house, which is a lot of wood and is much softer in its furnishings and the feel that you get.
A house of this size in this particular location has got to come with its own set of construction challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. It's built up against the mountain. It was also built on clay, so everything had to be leveled, and the house is on 5 different levels, but you can't tell when you look at it.
This bathroom introduces the color and natural form of Art Nouveau design, with the rich inlay of Mediterranean mosaics. Large stones lend the feel of a riverbed, while the brass basins and wooden counter bring warmth. Turn another corner and you could be in the cellar of a chateau.
Richard, what is this? It feels like we're in an underground aquarium.
Yeah, no, it's an incredible room. So it's a private wine cellar, but it's got a miniature canal system that goes around the whole of the house and especially around this room. So you've got this feeling that you're in an aquarium, and as you can see, you've also got the koi constantly swimming around you.
So we're literally inside the koi pond.
Yeah, you have the feeling of that aquarium, and the koi were specifically brought in from Japan. They were sourced from there and they were actually brought back to South Africa.
And just thinking about it, all this water provides a natural temperature control.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's absolutely perfect for keeping that perfect temperature for the wine through the summer and the winter.
The house feels part of every seasonal change because it's so closely woven into the garden. After 200 invasive blue gums were removed, the owners planted 130 indigenous trees, then called on the talents of landscape designer Winston Coe.
How long did it take you to cultivate this garden?
I started working here 2 years, 4 months ago, and when I started working, I was totally hooked onto this garden. I mean, this garden is my escapism, basically. And Keith and Milo are an amazing support structure. They always encourage you to do things differently, especially Keith. And that's what I love about this place.
How on earth do you maintain this miniature forest?
Well, it's quite a vast garden, but what we do is we basically group plants that have the same requirements. So basically in the rainforest, you'll have plants that require high moisture levels. In the rockery on the west side of the house, you have plants that have less water requirements. So the grouping of plants is very essential for the success of any garden. And there's so many opportunities for planting, for example, like the structure behind you. It's driftwood, and I mean, that looks like a coat hanger, for example. And just look how beautiful bromeliads and clivias and ferns look planted in them, because in some cases, most plants can actually survive in an epiphytic form. Epiphytic, I mean by they don't need soil, so they can actually attach themselves to bark, or to logs rather. So the misting system above, in the crown of the trees, they basically set to go off like 4 times a day, and that constant misting actually creates that environment that's actually conducive for these plants to grow and thrive.
The house has been through almost a quarter century of trial and error, as each space has evolved to answer a different part of the owner's lifestyle. As designers would say, form has followed function.
Gents, I've had a wonderful day exploring the space, and what I've come to realize, it's more than just a home. It's a work of art. So congrats on all your achievements, and cheers to that.
Thank you. Cheers.
This house sparks the imagination. Step inside and you feel you have one foot in reality and the other in fantasy, a realm in which creative people love to live.